my bouncy trouncy bonanzian friends, and welcome to another episode of Bold Banter Bonanza, where I read your controversial opinions on My Little Pony. You guys keep demanding more, so here we are again with number... oh gosh, what are we on now? 6? Man, I've done a lot of these. Anyway, let's kick things off with the first comment, shall we? Controversial opinion, Lauren Faust leaving the show was a good thing. Whew! Dang, that was a hot take. Are you trying to burn down my house? So there's a lot of debate as to whether or not the show got better or worse after the creator of the show, Lauren Faust, left. But honestly, I don't think her leaving the show actually changed its direction all that much. Like, Lauren Faust had a direction that she wanted the show to take and had plans for all the different characters' futures, and for the most part, they all came to fruition, even up to and including Twilight taking over for Celestia. Do I think the show got better after Lauren Faust left? Yeah, but do I think that it got better because she left? Not really. After she left, the show had a noticeable change in its tone and started becoming more mature. But I think that's what would have happened regardless of whether or not Lauren Faust left the show, because she always wanted this show to appeal to a wide audience. And as time went on, episodes became much more targeted towards an older audience. For example, in season 3, we had the episode One Bad Apple, which asked the question, how do you deal with a bully? And the answer that episode gave was, find an adult. But then later on in season 6, we had the episode Newbie Dash, which asked the question, how do you deal with a bully when you are the adult? I think the main difference we would have gotten in the show, should she have stayed, would be a little more narrative cohesion and a more structured plan going forward in the series. I can't ever see her allowing seasons 8 and 9 to go down the way they did. And since she was the one that initially was pushing for the show to, again, appeal to such a wide audience and have good storytelling, characters, good world building, etc., and was willing to fight back against Hasbro on, like, making all the characters into dresses and tea parties, I think she was a really important factor in the show's success and allowed it to become what it is today. So while I think that I would have liked her to stay on board the show, I honestly don't think there would have been that big of a difference. But it is a very interesting discussion. Thank you for the comment. Next opinion. I don't like Cheese Sandwich x Pinkie Pie, and I don't like Fluttershy x Discord. Note, please do not kill me, shippers. Okay, so first off, I have already touched on the whole Discord and Fluttershy thing, and I totally understand why some people don't like it. But Cheese Sandwich and Pinkie Pie? Like, I don't even consider myself to be a shipper, and I still like the fact that these two wound up together. I just can't see any pony else who could possibly not only handle her level of insanity on a daily basis, but appreciate it. And he may not just appreciate it, but this is something to bond over, as their insane level of party planning is just something that they have in common. Oh, and also, this is never explicitly mentioned in the show, but the way that these two plan parties complement each other really well. Pinkie Pie has the knowledge and skill to know exactly what kind of party some pony would want, while Cheese Sandwich is objectively better at executing the party. But you know what? To each his own. It's cool that you have that opinion. I personally, though, respectfully disagree. Thank you so much for the comment. Unpopular opinion, the show itself is only okay. Like, it's not bad by any means, don't get me wrong, it's very well made. But compared to something like Gravity Falls, it's kinda just eh. Solid 7 out of 10 for MLP in my opinion. Alright, so, as the My Little Pony YouTuber, I can't totally disagree. Like, looking at the show objectively, there are a lot of issues. Some things are smaller, like maybe a continuity error or an animation error, but then it's got other issues where, like, an entire episode is just bad. However, it absolutely makes up for it with a lot of really good storytelling and some really good characters and character development and world building. Is it as deep or intricately planned as something like Gravity Falls? Well, no, Gravity Falls is on a whole nother level. So yeah, I totally get the 7 out of 10 rating. However, in spite of its flaws and comparatively smaller scope to something like Gravity Falls, I do still think that it did a lot of stuff really well and a lot of stuff that I personally really like. And so for that reason, I think I'd give the show an overall 8 or 9. But you know what? 7 is totally understandable. Thank you very much for the comment. Opinion. I think Snips and Snails are funny and overhated. Alright everybody, I think now's a good time to remind you guys that everybody has a right to their own opinion, and we respect that. Which is why if you don't have anything nice to say, then you shouldn't say anything at all. Because actions speak louder than words. But no, in all seriousness, I get it. Snips and Snails have a certain flavor of humor, and it's not for everybody. But, you know, Snails wasn't the worst in Buckball season, and in fact, he gained a lot of fans in that episode. And you know what? To show just how okay it is to have a disagreement such as this, I'm gonna take this comment and glue it back together. Whoops! I accidentally dropped the paper shredder in the furnace! Yes, I keep a furnace on set. Why don't you? Hey, is this paper shredder battery powered? Yeah, it's battery powered. Does anyone here know if it's safe to cook a lithium battery? Probably gonna get some flack for this one, but I really think that Starlight had more character development in the 4 seasons where she was a main character than the main 6 did in 9 seasons. You know what? Whatever flack you get, I will take with you because I agree. Like, all the other main characters started out as decent individuals with some key flaws, but Starlight started off as a villain. From the very start, there was just so much for her to improve upon herself. Yes, her main character arc was turn into a good guy, but it never stopped with her choosing to be a good guy. There were a whole lot of basic things about friendship that she needed to learn after spending her whole life as a villain. And I feel like a lot of her arcs required her to take much bigger steps in her character than most of the main 6s did. Like, I just think that Starlight learning anger management is far more impressive than, say, Rainbow Dash learning to admit that she likes reading. Now, that's not to say that the rest of the main characters didn't have any impressive arcs, but I think it's definitely fair to say that Starlight shows the most progress as a character compared to all of them. And yes, that even goes for Fluttershy. As much as I love her character development, Starlight definitely has more. Thank you for the comment. So, is Martha single? Asking for a friend. Depends. How many bits you offering? Martha! Unpopular opinion. I love the idea of phones in G5 for 2 reasons. Reason 1, it can teach children about the importance of thinking before posting in social media. It can be done through Pip. She does have a tendency to film other ponies and post pictures and videos of other ponies without permission. Reason 2, it shows that technology and ponykind have evolved. As somebody who has been openly critical of the idea of putting phones in G5, I do largely agree with these points. But on the topic of lessons, my thought isn't so much that I love the idea of phones and want to see the lessons applied. It's more like, if you're gonna put the phones in anyway, then you might as well have a lesson involved. And when it comes to technology and social media, there are a lot of lessons that you could teach kids. You could have lessons about cyberbullying, hacking, scams, or my personal favorite, learning to just put the phone away. I would have loved to have seen an episode where Pip's social media obsession gets way too out of hand and it starts disrupting not only her life, but the lives of her friends as well, as, like you said, she starts posting things about her friends without permission. And then her friends all have to gather around her for an intervention where they take her phone away. And then the entire episode could just be us watching Pip struggle and go into the depths of insanity as she is suffering withdrawals without her phone. We got a little bit of this in the Bridal Woodstock episode where she was learning to live in the moment, but it was really passive and a side thing, and it never got its own dedicated episode. Personally though, I think that the best thing you can do is not have the phones because kids shouldn't be on the internet to begin with. At least not without adult supervision. The internet is a sketchy and dangerous place, and I don't think that we should be taking kids and telling them, hey, look at this social media thing. Isn't that so cool? Don't you want to partake in this? That just has bad idea written all over it. Anyway, as for your second reason about showing the technology evolving, I think there are other ways that you can show that without using phones specifically. So while I don't totally agree with these reasons, I do agree with the heart of these reasons. Thank you for the comment. My opinion, I didn't like Starlight's redemption. I felt like she had no consequences like the other villains. Well, the reason you feel that way is probably because she didn't have any consequences. Outside of losing control over her town, which she shouldn't have had in the first place, she never received any form of punishment. There was no Tartarus, no limbo, no turning to stone, nothing. But that does beg the question of why we have consequences and punishments to begin with. The two main reasons you punish bad behavior are 1, to teach a lesson so that the individual does not commit the bad behavior again, and 2, a punishment can be put in place to act as a deterrent of bad behavior. So a criminal is less likely to rob a bank because they know if they get caught, they're going to jail. So consequences such as this largely exist to fill a need. But the thing about Starlight is that she doesn't really need the consequences. She's already learned her lesson and has no intent on turning evil again. And giving her some sort of punishment isn't gonna help her become a good guy any faster. Contrast this with something like, say, Snips and Snails when they had an Ursa Minor storm through Ponyville. At the end of the episode, they were planning on causing trouble and then just running. They knew what they did was wrong, they tried to avoid the consequences, and then when confronted, tried to weasel their way out of it by complementing Twilight's magical capabilities. Only then were they willing to accept the punishment of cleaning up their mess. If they had not been punished in this scenario, the lesson they would have taken away from this is, hey look, we can cause a bunch of destruction and get away with it. And they need to be taught that their actions have consequences so that they don't do it again in the future. And I think it's an important lesson that sometimes punishments aren't necessary. It all depends on the specific circumstance, and with Starlight, I don't see any reason that she should be turned to stone or thrown into Tartarus. So for that reason, I actually really like Starlight's redemption arc, and I think they handled it really well. But that's just my opinion. Thank you for the comment. My unpopular opinion is that G3 is way too overhated. Yeah, it's kiddie and meant for a younger audience, but that's kind of the point. That version of MLP was aimed for a younger audience and knew that. Yeah, you know, I've heard this a lot in recent years. G3 has just kind of always been the punching bag of this fandom, but recently, it's really gotten a following. And it was really sudden too, like, it felt like not long ago everybody was making fun of G3, but now if I were to poke fun at G3, there's gonna be like an army of people who come forth saying, "Don't you dare mock our precious baby!" And I'm just like, wait a minute, we like G3 now? When did this happen? Now, I'll be honest, I've not actually seen much of G3, and what I have seen was quite a while ago, but from what I have seen, I just felt sort of meh towards it. Like, I didn't hate it as much as a lot of other people did, but I also didn't really see any appeal. But, you know, that was a long time ago, and hey, maybe I should give it another chance. It might actually be good. But Newborn Cutie still absolutely sucks though. Opinion: you should subscribe. Yes, please do. This channel's getting very close to 100,000 subscribers, and I want to see if I can hit that before the end of the year. So if you wouldn't mind pressing that button real quick to help me reach my goal, I would really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Opinion: Chrysalis should have been reformed. Yes, I agree, and I know that I have already talked about these three so much, but I've barely touched on Chrysalis. Hear me out on this. Chrysalis spends her whole life as queen trying to steal love to feed her subjects. And when offered with the alternative of all the changelings creating love to feed each other, that offer came right after she was shot with a giant love ray, her throne was blown up, Starlight turned her entire hive against her, and declared Thorax their new leader. Yeah, Starlight gave Chrysalis the opportunity to change and said, hey, you can be the leader that your subjects deserve. But again, this was only after she already declared Thorax their new king. So yeah, she is understandably upset. And I can see why she wants revenge on Starlight. I'm not saying it would be easy to reform her, but I think if the main six pause and realize where she's coming from, it is possible. And she's someone who's gonna need a bit more than just an offer saying, hey, you wanna be a good guy now? Pretty please? Like, it doesn't work that way. Like, you have to understand why she chooses to be evil so that you can get to the root of the problem and discuss that with her before she's gonna change her ways. So yes, I absolutely agree. Thank you for the comment. I can't watch any of the Equestria Girls side episodes. Love the movies, but not the show. I hate Sunset Shimmer. Yeah, that's understandable. All the side episodes aren't nearly as good as the actual movies, but you know, I personally still enjoyed them overall, but I don't really tend to go back to them. I just don't see the rewatch value in them quite as much as the movies, which, like you said, are good. Though you hate Sunset Shimmer? To be honest, I don't think I've heard anyone say that they hate Sunset Shimmer. Like, I just thought that we all kind of agreed that she was a really well done character. But, you know, you might have something specific about her that you don't really like, and hey, that's totally fair. We don't all have to like the same stuff, and I will happily respect your opinion. You know, it's a good thing that I'm the one reading these comments because there are a lot of people out there who wouldn't be able to handle an opinion like this. Right, F-?
I just want to talk to him.
F?
I just want to talk to him.
F, what are you doing?
I just want to talk to him.
No, F, stop.
I just want to talk to him.
F, no, you can't.
I just want to
Stop!
talk to him.
Stop! F, you can't do this. Think of what you're doing, please. It's not worth it. Think of your future. What would Sunset want?
I just want to stab him.
What would Sunset want? No! Well, I guess it's good that I have a lot of these things laying around. I don't like the exaggerated character animation from the last few seasons of the show. It was nice to see technology and visual improvements, but the style veered pretty far from Lauren Faust's original vision. I get that these expressions were funny and they could have worked if they had been used sparingly, but it just heightened a clash between a softer, rounder style and sharp, extremely exaggerated poses and expressions. You know what? I agree that overdoing these exaggerated expressions is a problem. Like, if you do it too much, it stops being a standout moment and it just sort of becomes the new norm. And suddenly, these once funny expressions aren't really funny anymore. They're just kind of there. However, while the show most definitely made the characters more expressive over time, I actually don't think that they went overboard with it. Now, I think that they definitely came close, but I do think that they just barely managed to stay within the lines and keep it to just the right level of exaggeratedness and have it happen just often enough to where I personally thought that it was funny and the characters were really expressive without taking away from the norm. But I think that's really just a matter of taste. Different people are going to have different thresholds to what they consider to be too much. Thank you ever so much for the comment. But you know what you can never have too much of? The number of likes that this video can receive! Yeah, I know, cringy segue. But in all seriousness, if you do like this content and you want to see more Bold Banter Bonanza, liking the video is the absolute best way to keep this series going. Well, that and of course, leaving your own controversial opinions in the comments. Those are kind of important to this series. And if you want to see more Bold Banter Bonanza, you can binge them all in this handy-dandy playlist that I put together. And a very grateful thank you to my channel members, especially these names right over here, for helping to keep this channel running. Now, for those of you who stuck around, for your enjoyment, I present to you F- swinging around a pointy stick.
Here goes nothing for Sunset. Leave that in as a blooper or something if you want. Man, I just want to stab him. I just want to stab him. I just want to stab him. Yeah.